Hello, everyone. How are y'all doing today? I am Jax James, NORML State Policy Manager, joining y'all today for the weekly policy update of moving legislation across the country. I encourage everyone who's watching today to comment in the section or in the comment section what state that you're in. And if you have any questions about actions or legislation that's ongoing, and I'd be happy to come back to it once we go over today's update. There's a lot of good legislation moving, and in the link of today's live stream or the description of today's live stream, you will see a link to today's update. And inside there is going to have all of the bills I'm covering today and associated links that you might be interested in, action alert links, which are extremely important. If any of you guys are watching today and your state is not included in our update, you can also go to normal.org/act, and there's a dynamic map there right underneath our federal alerts. And if you hover over your state, you'll see every bill that we are currently tracking with actions there. So we will go ahead and kick it off. I see a lot of people already commenting where you're watching from, so that's awesome. I appreciate that. I'm going to circle back to that after the update. All right, so today is the lovely Friday the 13th. I hope you guys are all having a good Friday the 13th. And I missed hanging out with y'all last Friday. However, I was in beautiful sunny California, well-deserved vacation with my kiddo and my family. So thanks for being cool with it. There was a policy update from last week. If you missed it, you can scroll back down our blog post and check it out. But for today, Friday the 13th, we will talk about all kinds of legislative advancement. And I'm going to go A to Z today, and we're going to talk about California first. So paying patients' right legislation, which is AB 1954, has passed through the committee process and now heads to the assembly floor. This bill prohibits a physician and surgeons from automatically denying treatment or medication to a qualified patient based solely on a positive drug test for THC. This is extremely important. Also in California, AB 2595, which seeks to protect parental rights of cannabis consumers, has passed through its committee hearings, and it also now has moved to the assembly floor. So for both of those bills, there's actions there that you can participate in to make sure that you want your legislators know that you want them to vote yes on the assembly floor. A third bill out of California, AB 2188, seeks to protect employment rights of cannabis consumer. It has cleared its third hurdle as it passes the Assembly Appropriations Committee, where it's currently awaiting a vote. All right, let's talk about Delaware. Big things happening in Delaware. Really happy for the people in Delaware to see this advancing. You guys have had a wild couple of sessions trying to get this very popular legislation through the gambit that is your legislature. Of course, earlier there was a all-in-one bill from Delaware to create a legalized market in Texas. In Delaware, excuse me, I'm in Texas. And that bill was not able to make it through the Senate. So the author went with a two-pronged approach. And the first bill of this approach is House Bill 371. This would remove all penalties associated with either the possession or not-for-profit transfer up to 1 ounce of marijuana by adults. However, possession above this limit and public consumption would still be classified as a misdemeanor. The update on House Bill 371 is that House members voted 26-14 and Senate members voted 13-7 with one person absent to advance this legislation. It now heads to the governor's desk, but Governor Carney has long expressed opposition to this bill, and a spokesperson for the governor said that his position has not changed. The governor just has 10 days to act on this bill. If he were to veto it, lawmakers would need to have a 3/5 majority to override his veto. So make sure that you reach out to the governor if you live in Delaware and let him know that you want to make sure that he signs this legislation. Additionally, the second prong of this approach in Delaware is House Bill 372, the Delaware Marijuana Control Act, and it seeks to regulate the cannabis market in the state. It would tax and regulate products in a very similar manner to alcohol. And the update on this bill is that it has passed the House Appropriations Committee and is now heading to the House floor. So make sure you reach out to your legislator to let them know that you want them to vote yes whenever HB 372 hits the House floor, which should be soon. These bills have been moving very quickly in Delaware, so very happy to see that. A quick update in Illinois. So Illinois current law requires that individuals petitioning for expungement or sealing of their criminal records must pass a drug test 30 days before filing for their petition. House Bill 4392 would remove this drug testing requirement. HB 4392 has passed both chambers and now is on the governor's desk. So if you live in Illinois, I strongly recommend that you participate in this action alert to ask the governor to sign that legislation. There's quite a few bills that have been filed in Louisiana. We're tracking quite a few with action alerts and monitoring others, but two of the bills that we are tracking have advanced this week. So the first one in Louisiana is House Bill 629, which prohibits the warrantless search of a person's residence based solely on the odor of marijuana. And the update there is that the House passed HB 629 by a vote of 66 to 28. So very important advancement in Louisiana. Make sure that you are reaching out to your legislators as it heads over to the Senate to let them know that you support this legislation. Additionally, House Bill 988 offers employment protections to patients who lawfully consume medical marijuana while away from their jobs. This provision doesn't alter existing language regarding consumption while at work, which is still strictly prohibited. HB 988 was heard in the House Committee of Labor and Industrial Relations this week, where it was deferred, which means that it will be probably taken up at a later date, most likely in a different committee. So make sure that your legislators know that you do support this effort and want to make sure to see that it continues advancing. Let's talk about New Hampshire. If you're in New Hampshire, you've probably been watching with popcorn what's going on in the legislature up there. So senators last week voted against House Bill 629, which sought to eliminate fines for minor marijuana possession and would have legalized a limited amount of home cultivation of cannabis. House members had passed the bill by a vote of 241 to 113, but the Senate decided against it by a 15-9 vote. The update here is that the House has continued to try to advance this legislation, with House lawmakers attaching the language to an amendment of an unrelated bill, forcing the Senate to act on it once again. However, on Thursday, members of the Senate did fail to pass the bill by the same vote count, 15-9. So I believe that in New Hampshire, there might be a few more last ditch efforts, if you will, like this, but in all likelihood, as the session draws to a close, this might be the end of this conversation. But as always, we will keep you updated. Let's talk about New Jersey. So currently in New Jersey, cannabis is legal through the New Jersey Constitution after 2.8 million voters passed question 1 in November of 2020. A series of required implementation laws were passed in February of 21 by the legislature, which accommodated possession, production, and the sale of regulated cannabis for those 21 and up. Employment protections were a crucial part of those reforms, and these rights extended to all workers, discriminating against none on the basis of their chosen profession. So there's been 3 pieces of legislation that are separate but similar that have been filed in New Jersey. Assembly Bills 3868, 3870, and 3914, which seek to discriminate against recreational cannabis consumers by removing important employment protections. 3868 and 3914 specifically target first responders and law enforcement officers, respectively. Now, on the specific issue of police becoming cannabis consumers, we believe here at NORML that there should be no discrimination against off-duty consumption. The legislation that affects all New York or New Jerseyans are, of course, very important, as well as the one that is helping first responders, law enforcement. These first responders often see traumatic things and deal with PTSD, and to prevent them from having access to cannabis when not on the job is also just, it's discrimination, just like it would be against any consumer in New Jersey. So we definitely encourage you to support these protections for those that use cannabis in New Jersey. All right, in Vermont, this is the last state I'm going to go over before I come back to your comments and see what questions you have for me today. But in Vermont, current state law imposes a THC cap of 30% for cannabis flower and 60% in solid concentrates. NORML maintains that such caps are arbitrary and are not in the best interest of cannabis consumers, especially medical patients who deserve the legal option to access varying strains of cannabis in varying potencies. As originally filed, House Bill 548 sought to remove that 60% THC cap on certain cannabis products. It also sought to exempt cannabis concentrates, oils, and tinctures from the 50 milligram THC limit per package, thereby expanding access to regulated cannabis products. The update here is that differing versions of House Bill 548 passed by the House and the Senate. The House opposed the Senate version, which removed the THC cap, and this was a removal that the Cannabis Control Board had previously recommended. This created an impasse between the two chambers and effectively killed the bill. However, amendments were made to an unrelated cannabis agriculture bill, S-188, that included the provisions that would exempt solid concentrates, oils, and tinctures from this 50 milligram limit per package. And there is a link there to a blog where you can read a little bit more about what's happening in Vermont. So while the THC cap is not going to be removed at this time, there are the caps on the limit for THC per package that will be adjusted. So that is an important change, although we want to see that cap lifted. So more work to do there. Coming back to the comments, let's see. All right, so we've got people from Illinois. I covered the legislation there. Also, I see someone from Missouri. Missouri's legislature has just ended, but I will have a new blog post out tomorrow about ballot initiatives and referendum efforts. And Missouri has submitted their signatures for verification as of right now. So stay tuned for more information on that. In New York, I did see some new bills were filed today that we're examining and looking at, and we should have some more actions for you in the coming days. But clicking over to my current spreadsheet in New York, if you go to norml.org/act, which is linked in the description of this live stream, you're going to see a dynamic map, and you can hover over New York and you'll be able to see expunction legislation, medical expansion, equity, employment protections, housing, insurance coverage. There's actually quite a few bills in New York that you can go and participate in. Let's see about Indiana. I don't recall off the top of my head, so I'm going to go to my handy dandy spreadsheet by which I live my life. And let's see, Indiana, it looks like the session has already ended in Indiana, and there is not any current legislation moving. So for everybody watching today, legislatures vary throughout the country. Some meet every year, every couple of months, every 2 years. There's a lot of states that started their legislature, in fact, a vast majority in January. And throughout the last few months, some of them have ended and some are still ongoing. And so make sure that you take a look at the map to see if you have current legislation in your state. If legislation is not actively moving, make sure to note that there are federal actions at norml.org/act that you can participate in to make sure that we keep the pressure on at the federal level. And also, we are working on the Smoke the Vote campaign to make sure that people in all of the states can find out how their legislators stand on this. Okay, back to the comments. Let's see. So Florida, your session is over as well. Tennessee, there is a bill pending the governor's signature having to do with adding quadriplegia to the lists of conditions. So make sure that you click on that action and request that the governor do sign that. South Carolina. So, oh, South Carolina, you guys have been in a roller coaster over there. There was a medical bill that was really close to passing and unfortunately was killed due to a parliamentary procedure. However, the author of that bill did try to amend an unrelated bill with the whole medical program that he wanted to have seen implemented in South Carolina. And unfortunately, that was ruled ungermane to the bill he tried to amend. So it was not allowed to move forward. Louisiana, I did go over some of the actions that are happening in Louisiana, but there's actually quite a lot of bills going on there. So I encourage you to go to norml.org/act and participate in those. I see Rick talking about Morgan's update from last week. You know, I'm not sure what happened since I was out of town. He did say he tried to do the broadcast, but then I didn't see it. So it seems like there might have been some kind of technical issue. So I apologize for that. These things happen, I guess. Let's see. North Carolina, thank you for reaching out about that. In North Carolina, I was just looking at this yesterday. Let's double check. North Carolina, there is currently one medical bill that is making its way through the legislature. So I encourage you to reach out about that. People watching from Texas. Okay, Texas, stay tuned tomorrow. I'm going to be posting and doing a live stream update about ballot initiatives and referendums. There's been some local movement in Texas that's super exciting, and I will cover it tomorrow. So make sure you tune in. All right, let's see. Looking for some more states over here. Any questions you might have? All right. I don't want to miss anything. Oh, Ohio. In Ohio, there currently is an effort for ballot initiative going on there, and I will talk about that as well tomorrow. Okay. I think I covered all of the things, you guys. I don't see any more questions here. So I'm going to reiterate a few things. Go to norml.org/act. Please participate in all of the federal actions at the top. And then you can hover over that dynamic map, hover on your state, and you'll see all of the bills that we currently have that we are tracking in your state. And you can participate in all of those actions. Additionally, if you support NORML's mission as the really only consumer advocacy group out there, I encourage you to become a NORML member. There's a link there where you can do so. And you can also make a donation to NORML, either a one-time donation or a monthly donation. So I encourage that as well. If you are interested in engaging with your local chapter, I included that link as well so that you can find out who is working with you in your state, maybe get more engaged with that chapter. There are a few states that don't have chapters, and there is a way by which that you could start a chapter in theory. So make sure that you reach out to us if you don't see one there and you're interested in helping make that happen. So let me close out by saying I will be here tomorrow, and I will be talking about all of the ballot initiatives and referendums that are going on across the country. And I'll be sharing a blog update about that as well. So I hope to see you guys tomorrow. I'm still debating on what time I want to do it. Like, do we have brunch together and talk about it? Are we doing it over lunch? Is it like a happy hour thing? So time to be determined. But I want to thank all of you guys for tuning in with me today and for all of your comments about where you're at so that we can cover what's going on in your state. And on that note, I'm going to wish you all a happy Friday the 14th. Oh, I can't even say the date. A happy Friday the 13th. And I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. And on that note, I'm going to bid you a fond farewell. Bye, guys.